the Perinatal Podcast, the mini episodes. I'm so delighted that you are here. I love having you here every time. Oh, I'm Meg Duke. Hi. If this is your first time, you need to know that. If you're back, you already knew that. Anyway, these are the stories that you all have graciously, vulnerably shared with me to share here on these shorter episodes. If anybody would love to share your own story about attention or organization or parenting or pregnancy or any of it. I'd love to have it. I'd love to have it. I'd love to read it here, or we haven't done this yet, and it is not necessary. But if you're interested, you can record a voice message and I will just add it straight in your own voice. But that is completely up to you all. I'm happy to read them as well. So let's jump into this week's batch of stories. One night, after a particularly chaotic bedtime routine, feel that, I found myself completely drained. The kids were still wound up, bouncing off the walls, and I knew that if I heard, "I'm not tired," one more time, I might actually lose it. Instead of fighting it, I said, "Okay, pajamas on, we're going for a walk." Nice. They looked at me like I'd lost my mind, but within minutes, we were outside, barefoot in the driveway, looking up at the stars. The night air was cool, the world was quiet, and just like that, the energy shifted. We whispered about what the clouds looked like, we listened for crickets, and took slow, sleepy steps back to the house. By the time we got back inside, they climbed into bed without a fuss, and honestly, I felt calmer too. Now, when bedtime feels impossible, we take a pajama walk. Sometimes just to the porch, sometimes around the block. It turns out a little fresh air and a slower pace can work wonders for all of us. I love this so much. I cannot tell you. We are having the whole thing. My 3-year-old right now, for a while, has really, she used to be, I mean, you could like chuck her into bed. Not really. Everyone, baby safety, of course, but you could just like drop her on into bed and she'd be like, "Yep, okay, I'm cool, bye." And we've been having a lot of issue, and we don't need to get into it here. We certainly could. If anybody has more questions, I'm happy to. And I love this idea because it's nice to have that like reset moment, that um, change it up, show some flexibility, meeting people where they are, while not just fully being like, "Okay, cool, stay up until midnight watching TV," but just something with intention. So this is such a beautiful idea, and I might have to incorporate that into soon nighttime. All right, so the next one is called the done list. I used to end every day feeling like I hadn't done enough. The to-do list was always longer than what I had crossed off, and no matter how much I got done, I'd focus on what was left undone. One day, instead of listing out what I still needed to do, I decided to make a different kind of list, a done list. I grabbed a notebook and wrote down every little thing I had accomplished that day. Answered 2 emails, made the kids lunch, folded the towels, took out the trash, checked in on a friend, drank enough water. Seeing it written out made me realize I had done a lot, more than I gave myself credit for. Now I keep a done list at the end of my day whenever I feel like I didn't do enough, because sometimes progress looks like a long to-do list. And sometimes it's just reminding yourself that you showed up, did your best, and that's enough. I was You all, I kid you not, just having this conversation with a girlfriend. We were just talking about how life feels so chaotic, and it's like you try to be so intentional, and then also at the end of the day, it's like, "Oh, I just kind of got through the day," which is a great thing because you don't want to participate in anticipatory anxiety, and you want to live one day at a time and be intentional and present in the moment. And also sometimes it feels like so much. So this is really quite cool as well. We don't give ourselves that, like they said, more than I gave myself credit for. And I don't think we do that enough. I feel pretty confident most of you might be nodding as well, like, "Yeah, me too." So I really love the idea of the done list, air quotes, done list, um, and patting ourselves on the back for that, or even the things that we tried. A try list as well. I tried something, I failed, but here's what I learned, and what I'm going to try differently, or I don't know. I'm going off on a whole other tangent. All right, last one. The other day, my kid had a full meltdown over something small, like the wrong color cup. I could feel myself getting frustrated and they were spiraling fast. Instead of snapping, I took a deep breath and said, "Let's hit the reset button." They had no idea what I was talking about. The what? I pretended to press a big, invisible button in the air. Boom! Reset. New moment. Let's try again. They hesitated, then reached up and pressed their own imaginary button. Boom! We both took a deep breath, and just like that, the tension softened. The meltdown didn't magically disappear, but it gave us both a chance to pause before it escalated. Now, quote, hitting the reset button is our little trick. It works for me too. When I'm feeling overwhelmed or frustrated, I give myself permission to reset because sometimes all we need is a fresh start, even in the middle of the day. I love that. I've actually said that just this past weekend. I asked one of my kids, do we need a reset? Can we take a reset? And sometimes the answer is no, I don't want to reset because they're not in that space. But I like to try anyway, and I love that this person is doing something very similar as well. I like the button in the air too. We don't actually like, physically do the reset button, so I'm gonna have to try that next time and give it a little extra flair. But I love that. And I love and adore and cherish each and every single one of you out there listening across all the platforms, across so many different countries. Thank you so much. It's not just dedicated to the United States or even to North America. And I appreciate each of you taking the time and tuning in. And I really appreciate, like I said, those of you who've got taking the time to write in your stories. Please continue to do that. Email me, Meg at megdukelcsw.com, or you can DM me on Instagram. Amplify Wellness with Meg is my handle. I'd love to hear from each one of you. And while I have you, if you could please very quickly go and give a 5-star rating, make sure that you're following, whether it's on wherever it is, hit the subscribe button. That's how you get new content information. And it helps the algorithm, which means more and more people can see the show, which means we can keep doing the show. So thank you for everything that you all are doing. Thank you for the vulnerability and sharing. It's so great when we can feel validated and normalized with each other and here in this beautiful space that we've created together. And I look forward to seeing you next week on the big episode. Until then, be curious, not judgmental.